After she loses that job at UCLA, and Ronald Reagan says she should never teach at another California school. She gets multiple other jobs at California schools. But yeah, I mean, Forrest Gump has been ripped as this piece of conservative.
You mean Ronald Reagan was wrong about something? Is that what you mean?
How dare you?
I just said Reagan, like someone from Philadelphia.
Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. On the phone with the boat.
So he got married to Nancy Reagan.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see you in the Wawa Park a lot.
We're doing Philadelphia accents.
We are, sorry.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so Forrest Gump has been presented as this piece of like conservative propaganda because Forrest is like this dumb white guy who's like, really nice to everybody, but just kind of mumbles through life, and he like meets revolutionaries, and he's not very impressed. His
muddy face is the smiley logo bullshit.
Well, he goes to Vietnam when he's asked to go. He comes back and he meets like a white revolutionary who turns out to be a total hypocrite who hits his girlfriend. Jenny is punished for her profligate lifestyle by getting AIDS.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it's just it can be read as
Sally Fields' his mom, and only 3 years later in a different movie was his love interest.
It can be read as a very conservative document, and this is the anti-Forrest Gump because this is the liberal version of that, or the leftist version of that.
Or just, I don't know.
She's another woman. She's another character who is everywhere, but she's the inverse of Forrest Gump. She's an intelligent African American.
Exactly. She's the photo negative.
Yeah.
She's the direct contrast.
Or the photo positive.
I didn't mean negative. Listen to fucking Tim Malloy frame everything I say like it's the most malignant. I want someone to do an adaptation of this podcast where I'm the hero because the poison pen of Tim Malloy makes me the villain every time.
That podcast has already been made. It's called This Podcast. I want to give...
George Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, who plays George Jackson?
We decided on Jussie Smollett, the handsome devil of Empire, who is tender but masculine, and also just one of the prettiest people you'll ever see.
George Jackson. I'm reading this book. The way I got down this path is reading about the 70s and obsessing over the 70s. As my friend Golgan recommended American Heiress, a book about Patty Hearst.
Oh, wow. And have you seen the Joan Didion documentary yet, by the way?
No, I need to.
And it's directed by her nephew, Griffin Dunn.
Yeah, I got to see it.
It's called The Center Will Not Hold. It's fantastic.
The Patty Hearst is taken by this terrorist group, the SLA.
Sure.
And it's led by a guy named Sink. And Jeffrey Toobin.
Love Jeffrey Toobin.
He's great. The author of this book talks about how Sink is in every way like a poor man's George Jackson. And so he goes on to this part about George Jackson. And one of the details he gives is that he did 1,000 fingertip push-ups a day. So Jossie's going to be working out a lot.
Yeah. Sink also sounds like a fictitious rapper they sign on Empire. So, like, Sink's album drops next week, you guys.
I think we've got it.
I think we nailed it, and I think that anyone who wants this package should give us 10%. Just kidding, that's not ethical.
We'll give the money to the Black Panthers.
We'll give the money to the Black Panthers.
Let's go out with this speech last year from Angela Davis.
Yes.
So, at this very challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of women, trans people, men, and youth who are here at the Women's March, we represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism, heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on indigenous land. And we follow the lead of the first peoples who, despite massive genocidal violence, have never relinquished the struggle for land, water, culture, their people. We especially salute today the Standing Rock Sioux. The the freedom struggles of black people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with the sweep of a hand. We cannot be made to forget that black lives do matter. This is a country anchored in slavery and settler colonialism, which means, for better or worse, the very history of the United States is a history of immigration and enslavement. Spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder and rape, and building walls will not erase history. No human being is illegal. The struggle to save the planet, to stop climate change, to guarantee the accessibility of water from the lands of the Standing Rock Sioux to Flint, Michigan, to the West Bank and Gaza, the struggle to save our flora and fauna, to save the air. This is ground zero of the struggle for social justice. This is a women's march, and this women's march represents the promise of feminism as against the pernicious powers of state violence. An inclusive and intersectional feminism. An inclusive and intersectional feminism that calls upon all of us to join the resistance to racism, to Islamophobia, to anti-Semitism, to misogyny, to capitalist exploitation. Yes, we salute the fight for 15. We dedicate ourselves to collective resistance. Resistance to the billionaire mortgage profiteers and gentrifiers. Resistance to the healthcare privateers. Resistance to the attacks on Muslims, on immigrants. Resistance to the attacks on disabled people. Resistance to state violence perpetrated by the police and through the prison industrial complex. Resistance to institutional and intimate gender violence, especially against trans women of color. Almost done. Women's rights are human rights all over the planet, and that is why we say freedom and justice for Palestine. We celebrate the impending release of Chelsea Manning and Oscar Lopez Rivera, but we also say free Leonard Peltier, free Mumia Abu-Jamal, free Assata Shakur. Over the next months and years, we will be called upon to intensify our demands for social justice, to become more militant in our defense of vulnerable populations. Those who still defend the supremacy of white male heteropatriarchy had better watch out. The next 1,459 days of the Trump administration will be 1,459 days of resistance. Resistance on the ground, resistance in the classrooms, resistance on the job, resistance in our art and in our music. This is just the beginning. And in the words of the inimitable Ella Baker, We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Thank you.